The cantina on Station Omega-7 smelled like smoke and cheap liquor. Dozens of mercenaries filled the dark room, drinking and trading stories about their latest contracts. In the corner, sitting alone at a scarred metal table, was Grezekt. His forearms rested on the table surface, and his crystalline armor plates caught the dim light. Every mercenary in the sector knew his name. A group of young fighters approached his table. Their leader, a cocky Vren named Skath, slammed his clawed hand on the metal surface. Grezekt, we want to hear from the legend himself. Which species are the easiest targets? We've got a contract offer and need to know who to avoid. Grezekt looked up slowly. His 3 eyes studied the young mercenaries. They were eager, stupid, and about to get themselves killed if someone didn't teach them. "Sit down," he said in his deep, rumbling voice. The young fighters pulled up chairs. Skath leaned forward. "So tell us. You've fought everyone. The Kreth warriors, the psychic Velnari, even a Torgan warhive. Who should we stay away from?" "Humans," Grezekt said immediately. The table erupted in laughter. Skath slapped the metal surface again. "Humans? Those soft little things? They have no claws, no armor, no strength. I heard one human weighs less than half a Catharian. You're joking, right?" Grezkekt's expression didn't change. "I have fought for 30 years. I have completed hundreds of contracts. I have killed Kreth berserkers in hand-to-hand combat. I have survived encounters with Velnari mind readers. I have raided military bases and criminal strongholds. But only one species made me retire from taking contracts against civilian targets. Only one species truly frightened me." The laughter died. Skath leaned back in his chair. "You're serious?" "Completely serious." Grezekt poured himself another drink. "Let me tell you about 5 years ago. Let me tell you why you should never, ever make humans angry." The young mercenaries settled in to listen. Other patrons in the cantina moved closer, curious. Grezekt's stories were rare and valuable. 5 years ago, my crew received a contract," Grezekt began. "A pharmaceutical consortium wanted us to raid a human research vessel. The ship was studying primitive life on a border world. The job was simple: board the ship, steal their biological samples, leave no witnesses. The pay was triple our normal rate." "Sounds easy," one of the young mercenaries muttered. "That's what we thought." Grezekt took a long drink. "We did our research first. We always do research. The target was a ship called Harmony's Quest. It carried only 12 humans. All of them were scientists and researchers. Not one had military training listed in any database. The ship had civilian-grade hull plating and no weapon systems." 12 unarmed scientists against your whole crew?" Skath asked. "How many did you bring?" 40 of us, all experienced fighters, all heavily armed." Grezekt's armor plates shifted, a sign of discomfort in Catharians. "We studied everything about humans. Their average strength is less than ours. They have no natural weapons like claws or poison or armor. Their bodies are soft and easy to damage. They depend completely on their technology. Every single metric told us this would be the easiest contract we had ever taken." "What went wrong?" someone asked from the crowd. Grezekt's 3 eyes narrowed. "Everything. But first, let me tell you how it started. We approached the Harmony's Quest in stealth mode. They didn't detect us until we were right next to them. Our cutting tools sliced through their civilian hull like it was paper. We boarded through the cargo bay. Standard operation. Quick and efficient." He paused, remembering. "That's when we first heard from their captain, a human woman named Park Ji-woo. Her face appeared on our communication screens. She looked small, maybe 1.6 meters tall. She had black hair tied back and wore a simple research uniform. She looked more like a teacher than a ship commander." "What did she say?" Skath asked. "She asked us politely to leave." Grezekt laughed, but there was no humor in it. She said, "Unknown vessels, you are boarding a civilian research ship. We are unarmed. We request that you leave immediately. We do not want conflict." I told her we were taking their cargo and there would be no witnesses. That's when she said something strange. What? She looked directly at the camera and said, "You should have taken the warning. We didn't want this." Then she closed the communication channel. Grazikat's armor plates shifted again. I didn't understand what she meant. A warning? We were 40 armed mercenaries. They were 12 scientists. What could they possibly do? He leaned forward. I split my crew into groups. Standard procedure. 10 mercenaries to secure the cargo bay. 10 to take the research labs. 10 to capture the crew quarters. 10 to hold the bridge. I kept the best fighters with me as a mobile unit in case any group needed support. Smart tactics, one of the listeners said. Tactics don't matter when you don't understand your enemy, Grezkit replied. My first group reached the cargo bay. They found one human standing there alone. A young male researcher named Kim Min-jae. He stood in front of a row of storage containers blocking the way. My team leader ordered him to move. Min-jae refused. Just one human against 10 mercenaries? Scath looked confused. What happened? My team leader decided to move him by force. He reached out to shove the human aside. Grezik's voice dropped lower. Min-jae grabbed my team leader's arm. What happened next? I saw on the helmet cameras. The human did something impossible. He twisted the arm at a specific angle, using our own joint structure against us. The team leader's arm locked. He couldn't move it. Before anyone could react, Min-jae had disabled 3 of my mercenaries using pressure points we didn't even know we had. The cantina was completely silent now. Dozens of mercenaries listened, fascinated and disbelieving. Over the communication channel, my other groups started reporting similar problems, Grezek continued. Another researcher had sealed herself in the medical bay and released a sedative gas. Somehow it was perfectly calibrated for Catharian biology, but didn't affect humans. Another human had taken control of the ship's artificial gravity systems. He created zones that made my mercenaries dizzy and sick, but left the humans comfortable. How? Scath demanded. They couldn't have known your biology that well. That's what I thought, Grezek said quietly. But I was wrong. These humans had been studying us from the moment we boarded. They had analyzed our weaknesses, our biology, our tactics. They weren't warriors, but they were doing something more frightening. They were solving us like a puzzle. Grezk took another drink before continuing his story. The young mercenaries at his table sat completely still, waiting for him to speak again. The crowd in the cantina had grown larger. Even the bartender had stopped working to listen. I decided to go to the cargo bay myself, Grezk said. I needed to see what was happening with my own eyes. I brought my best fighters with me. We moved through the corridors carefully, weapons ready. But something was wrong. The ship felt different. The air temperature kept changing. The lights flickered in patterns that made our eyes hurt. The floor vibration was off, making us feel sick. The humans were controlling all of it? Someone asked. Their engineer was. Grezek confirmed. A man named Li Tae-yang. He had taken complete control of every system on the ship. Every door, every environmental control, every sensor. And he was using them all as weapons. But here's what made it frightening. He wasn't trying to kill us. He was hurting us, separating us, making us weak without causing permanent harm. Scath shook his head. That doesn't make sense. If they could kill you, why didn't they? That's what I kept asking myself, Grezek replied. We reached the cargo bay. I found Min-jae still standing there guarding those containers. 3 of my mercenaries were on the floor, conscious but unable to move. Their joints had been locked using techniques I had never seen. Min-jae looked at me without fear. Just calm determination. Grezk's voice grew quieter. I asked him what was in the containers that was worth protecting. He told me something I'll never forget. The containers held samples from the planet below. One sample was a bacterial strain that was completely harmless to humans, but would be devastating to most other species in the galaxy. If it got into galactic trade routes, it could kill billions. The cantina was silent except for Grust's voice. The humans had discovered this bacteria while doing their research. They had been working day and night to develop a cure before anyone else found it. They were trying to protect species they had never met from a threat those species didn't even know existed. That's what we were trying to steal. That's what we were going to sell to the highest bidder. They were protecting everyone, a voice said from the crowd. Yes, Grusk said. And we were about to doom entire worlds for profit. But I didn't understand that yet. All I knew was that these unarmed scientists were beating my trained mercenaries. I demanded that Minjai step aside. He refused. He stood there, one human against all of us, protecting those containers. Grusk's armor plates darkened, showing shame. My second-in-command, a fighter named Vrek, got frustrated. He had been humiliated by these humans. He decided to take action. While Minjai was watching me, Vrek fired his stun weapon. The blast hit Minjai in the back. The human fell. You won then, Scath said. No. Grusk's voice was hard. That's when we lost everything. Vrek walked over to the containers and reached for the one Minjai had been guarding. That's when I saw Captain Park's face on every monitor in the cargo bay. And for the first time, I saw what an angry human looks like. He paused, and the listeners leaned closer. Her face didn't show rage like a Kreth warrior or fury like a Torgan soldier. Her expression was cold, controlled, absolutely resolved. She looked at us like we were a problem she was going to solve. Then she spoke. What did she say? Scath asked. She said, You've had your warning. You've refused to leave. You've attacked my crew. You've tried to steal material that could cause a pandemic. Now you have 10 minutes to get off my ship before we stop being gentle. Grizzic's 3 eyes looked at each of the young mercenaries. We laughed. Being gentle? We were winning. We had 40 armed mercenaries. One of their crew was unconscious on the floor. What could 12 scientists do? He drank again. That's when everything changed. Over the next few minutes, I watched my entire operation fall apart. The humans stopped trying to contain us. They started hunting us. I saw it all through the helmet cameras and security monitors. How? Someone demanded. Medical Officer Kang Ji-wan emerged from the medical bay, Grusk explained. She had prepared injections containing compounds that would temporarily paralyze us without causing permanent damage. She moved through the corridors like a trained soldier, striking with precision at specific points on our bodies. Every mercenary she touched dropped within seconds. A doctor fighting like a soldier, Scath muttered. All of them were fighting, Grusk said. Communications specialist Jung Soo Min hacked into our personal communication systems. She started feeding us false information. She made us think we were winning in some areas and losing in others. She turned us paranoid. We started suspecting each other. Some of my mercenaries began firing at shadows because they couldn't trust what they were hearing. He continued. Researcher Yoon Ha-jin trapped 5 of my best fighters in the research lab using nothing but chemistry. She created a foam that expanded and hardened around them. They couldn't move, couldn't fight, couldn't do anything except wait. The foam was designed to dissolve after 1 hour, leaving them unharmed but completely helpless. They thought of everything, someone whispered. That's the terrifying part, Grusk said. They hadn't planned any of this. They did it all in real time. They saw us board their ship, analyzed us, and created solutions in minutes. The pilot, Han Sung-ho, was flying the ship in patterns that made us nauseous while the humans felt fine. He had calculated the difference between our inner ear structure and theirs, then weaponized motion sickness. Scath looked sick himself. 12 scientists beat 40 mercenaries using science. Not just science, Grusk corrected. Intelligence, adaptability, creativity. They were using everything around them as a weapon, and they were doing it without killing anyone. That's what made it so frightening. They could have killed us easily, The doctor could have used poison instead of paralytic. The chemist could have used acid instead of foam. The engineer could have vented our air. But they didn't. Why not? A young mercenary asked. Because they didn't want to, Grizzt said simply. That's when I understood something important. Humans don't want to kill. They'd rather find another way. But that preference isn't weakness. It's a choice. And when you force them to stop choosing mercy, you learn why they're dangerous. He looked at his scarred hands. I ordered a retreat. I knew we couldn't win. But Vrek refused to listen. He was angry and embarrassed. He fired his weapon at Captain Park's location on the bridge. The shot missed her but hit a support beam near the crew quarters. 2 researchers had been hiding there. The beam fell, nearly crushing them. Grizzt's voice became very quiet. That's when Captain Park's voice came back over the speakers. She wasn't cold anymore. She was something else. Something that made every combat instinct I had scream danger. She said, "You fired on my crew in their home. You tried to steal medicine meant to save lives. You won't leave peacefully. We tried the gentle way. Now we'll show you why even the Galactic Council doesn't make humans angry." The cantina remained completely silent as Grizzt continued his story. His 3 eyes stared at nothing, remembering that day 5 years ago. The day everything changed. The humans stopped being gentle, Grizzt said. That's the only way I can describe it. Before, they had been containing us, controlling us, hurting us. After that shot was fired, they became something else. They became hunters. What changed? Scoth asked. Everything. Grizzt's armor plates shifted. Medical Officer Kang Ji-won stopped hiding. She walked through the corridors openly, carrying her injections. But now she wasn't just defending. She was hunting. Every mercenary she found, she disabled. She moved with absolute efficiency. No wasted movement, no hesitation. It was like watching a completely different person. Where did a doctor learn to fight? Someone asked. That's what I wondered, Grizzt said. Later I learned that humans train many of their people in combat, even civilians. They call it basic training or self-defense. But this was more than that. This was someone who understood exactly how to stop an opponent without killing them. Every strike she made was precise, calculated, and completely effective. He continued. The 12 humans moved through the ship like a coordinated military unit. They had divided the ship into zones. Each zone had 1 or 2 humans clearing it systematically. They communicated constantly, sharing information, adapting their strategies. We were 40 individual fighters. They were one unified force. How were they communicating? Scath asked. You said Jung Soo-min had hacked your systems. She had, Grizzt confirmed, but the humans were using their own secure channel, and more than that, she was feeding us false information on our own channels. She made us think we were winning in some areas. She made us think we were surrounded in others. She created chaos in our ranks without firing a single shot. It was psychological warfare at its finest. Grizzt took another drink. My mercenaries started panicking. These were experienced fighters who had faced military forces, criminal gangs, and hostile aliens. But they couldn't handle 12 scientists who fought with intelligence instead of brute force. The humans knew everything about the ship, everything about us, and they were always 3 steps ahead. You still had numbers, a listener said. 40 against 12. Numbers don't matter when you can't coordinate, Grizzt replied. Jung Soo-min made sure we couldn't trust our communications. Li Tai-yang made sure we couldn't move freely through the ship. Doors would lock at crucial moments. Gravity would shift in specific corridors. The temperature would drop or rise suddenly. Every system was a weapon in his hands. What were you doing? Scath asked. Trying to hold my crew together, Grizzt said. Trying to understand what was happening, and slowly realizing that we were being herded again. The humans weren't just hunting us randomly. They were pushing us toward specific locations. I noticed it too late. He leaned forward. All of my mercenaries were being driven toward the main cargo bay. The same place where Minjai had first stopped us. The same place with those containers. Once we realized what was happening, we tried to resist, but the humans had planned perfectly. Every corridor we tried to use was blocked or dangerous. Every alternate route led back to the cargo bay. We had no choice. It was a trap, someone whispered. A perfect trap, Gruzek agreed. 40 mercenaries ended up in the cargo bay, the doors sealed behind us. I heard Li Tae-Yang's voice over the speakers. He said, "I'm adjusting the atmospheric mixture now. It won't harm you, but you're going to feel very tired. I suggest sitting down." Within minutes, every one of my mercenaries was struggling to stay alert. The air mixture was perfectly calibrated to make us sluggish while leaving the humans unaffected. "They studied your biology that fast?" Scath looked disbelieving. "They had been studying us from the moment we boarded," Gresk said. "Every time we moved, every time we breathed, every time we communicated, they were analyzing us, learning our weaknesses, understanding our physiology, and they did it all while defending themselves. That's what makes humans terrifying." "They can fight and learn at the same time." He paused. Then Captain Park entered the cargo bay. She came in alone, unarmed, facing 40 armed mercenaries. We were tired and slow from the atmosphere change, but we still had our weapons. We could have shot her, but something stopped us. Maybe it was the way she walked. Maybe it was the look in her eyes. Or maybe it was the certain knowledge that if we hurt her, the other 11 humans would make sure we never left that ship alive. "What did she say?" multiple voices asked at once. "She stood in the center of the cargo bay and looked at each of us," Gresk said. Then she spoke. Her voice was calm, like a teacher explaining something obvious to slow students. She said, "You made a mistake. You assumed we were easy targets because we don't have claws or armor or natural weapons. You forgot to ask why we don't have them." The cantina was completely silent. Gruzek continued. She explained that humans evolved on a death world called Earth, a planet where almost everything could kill them. They didn't develop claws because claws wouldn't save them. They didn't develop armor because armor wouldn't save them. Instead, they developed something more useful, adaptability, the ability to learn, to change, to solve problems. "She told us about human history," Grisk said. "Thousands of years of humans fighting other humans, learning every possible way to win against their own species. Every tactic, every strategy, every psychological trick. When humans fight other species, they're using techniques they perfected against the most dangerous opponents in the galaxy, each other. That's why they're so good at it," someone said. "That's part of it," Gresk agreed. But Park said something else. She said humans have another trait that makes them dangerous: empathy, the ability to understand what others feel and think. That's why they could analyze our biology so fast. They put themselves in our place and imagined how we would move, think, and react. He looked around at the young mercenaries. She said empathy drives humans to work together perfectly. It helps them understand their enemies, and most importantly, it makes them not want to kill. They'd rather find another solution. But she also said that when humans get angry, they don't lose control like other species. They don't rage blindly. Instead, anger focuses them. It makes them channel all that intelligence and adaptability towards solving one problem, stopping whoever made them angry. "What happened then?" Scath asked quietly. "She offered terms," Grosk said. "We would leave immediately. We would tell no one about the research. We would spread the word that human ships are off limits. In exchange, the humans wouldn't report us to the Galactic Council, wouldn't press charges, wouldn't seek revenge. She was giving us a way out." "Did you take it?" someone asked. "I did," Grasit said. "But first, I asked her a question. I asked why she was showing mercy when we had tried to kill her crew and steal their research. I asked why she wasn't killing us when she clearly could." He finished his drink. Park looked at me and said something I'll never forget. She said, "Because we're angry, but we're not cruel. Anger makes us dangerous, not evil. Learn the difference." Then she had Lee release us. We returned to our ships and left. The entire operation took less than 2 hours from start to finish. Grisk signaled the bartender for another drink. The young mercenaries at his table waited quietly. The story wasn't finished yet, and everyone in the cantina knew it. As we were leaving, Grisk continued, Captain Park sent a message to my ship. I still have it. I've watched it hundreds of times over the past 5 years. She said, "I hope you learned something today, Grisk. We tried to teach gently. Next time you meet humans, remember, we prefer peace, but we're very good at war." "Just like that?" Scath asked. "She let you go?" "Not quite," Grisk said. "Before we could leave the system, we received another transmission. This one was from Minjai, the researcher who had been guarding the containers. He had recovered from the stun blast. He wanted to tell me something." "What did he say?" someone asked. "He explained what was in those containers in detail," Grisk replied. "The bacterial strain that we almost stole could have spread through trade routes in weeks. It would have killed billions of beings across dozens of species. The humans had discovered it by accident while studying simple life forms on the planet below. They immediately stopped their other research and focused on finding a cure." Grisk's voice became softer. "Minjai said they had been working 18-hour days for 3 months. They didn't report the bacteria to the Galactic Council because they didn't want to cause panic before they had a solution. They were trying to protect species they had never met, people who would never know the humans had saved them. And you were going to sell it as a weapon," a voice said from the crowd. "We didn't know," Grisk said. "But ignorance isn't an excuse. Minjai said something else. He said, 'This is why you should never underestimate humans. We'll exhaust ourselves protecting strangers. Imagine what we'll do to protect the people we love.'" The cantina was silent for a moment. Then Scath asked, "What happened after you left?" "I went back to our base," Grisk said. "I told the pharmaceutical consortium that the contract was impossible. They were angry. They said I was getting old, losing my edge. They hired another crew to try, a group called the Red Talons. 25 mercenaries, all heavily armed, all experienced." "What happened to them?" Scath asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "They attacked another human research vessel 3 months later," Grisk said. "A ship studying ocean life near the Vega system. The Red Talons were more aggressive than we had been. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't give warnings. They just boarded and started shooting." He paused. "The humans on that ship weren't as gentle as Captain Park's crew. They defended themselves with full force. When Galactic Council security arrived 4 hours later, they found all 25 Red Talon mercenaries alive but in critical condition. The humans had defended themselves perfectly, disabling every attacker without causing a single death." "Even when attacked without warning?" someone asked. "Even then," Grisk confirmed. The human captain told Council security that they used minimum necessary force. They could have killed the Red Talons easily, but they chose not to. That's when I understood something important. Humans don't just choose peace because they're weak or afraid. They choose it because they understand the value of life, even the lives of people trying to kill them. Scath shook his head slowly. "That's not normal." "No, it's not," Grisk agreed. "Most species kill to protect themselves. Humans protect themselves without killing if they can avoid it. But here's the terrifying part. That restraint isn't weakness. It's discipline. It means when humans do decide to kill, they've already exhausted every other option. And if you've pushed them that far, you're facing an opponent who knows exactly what they're doing." "You said you learned something that day," a young mercenary said. "What did you learn?" Grisk thought for a moment. I learned that physical strength doesn't matter as much as I thought. Intelligence matters, adaptability matters, coordination matters, and most of all, understanding your opponent matters. The humans knew everything about us within an hour. We knew nothing about them even after studying their databases for weeks. He continued. I learned that the most dangerous opponents are the ones who don't want to fight, because they're not fighting for pride or profit or territory. They're fighting because you left them no choice, and people who don't want to fight but have to are often the most focused, the most determined, and the most creative. I also learned about human culture, Gruzgt said. After the incident, I spent months researching them. I learned about a human saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." It means approach everything with diplomacy first, but have the capability to back up your words with action if necessary. That's exactly what Captain Park did. What else did you learn? Scath asked. I learned that humans see patterns faster than any species I've encountered, Gruzgt said. They can take limited information and extrapolate complete strategies. They can analyze a new opponent and find weaknesses in minutes. It's not magic. It's pattern recognition refined by millions of years of evolution on a planet that tried to kill them every day. He looked around the cantina. I learned that humans cooperate better than most hive species. They don't have a collective mind, but they communicate so efficiently that they might as well. 12 humans acting as one unit are more dangerous than 40 individuals acting separately. Most importantly, Gruzgt said, I learned that humans get creative when they're angry. Other species lose control when angry. They rage, they make mistakes, they become predictable. Humans do the opposite. Anger focuses them. It makes them think harder, plan better, and fight smarter. They turn anger into motivation for problem solving. That's what Captain Park meant, someone said. Anger makes them dangerous, not evil. Exactly, Gruzgt agreed. An angry human is someone who has decided you're a problem that needs to be solved. And humans are very, very good at solving problems. They'll analyze you, find your weaknesses, and exploit them with precision. They'll use everything around them as a weapon. They'll coordinate perfectly with their team. And they'll do it all while still trying not to kill you if they can avoid it. He finished his drink. After that day, I changed my business completely. I stopped taking contracts against civilian targets. I became a security consultant instead. I teach corporations and governments what I learned, how to recognize when humans are still being gentle, and how to avoid making them stop. You're scared of them, Scath said, and it wasn't a question. Respectful, Gruzgt corrected. There's a difference. I'm not afraid of humans. I'm cautious around them. I understand what they're capable of, and I make sure never to make them angry. That's not fear. That's intelligence. Do you still see any of them? A young mercenary asked. Captain Park? Gruzgt smiled, a frightening expression for a Catharian. I know where her ship is. I track its movements, not to attack, to avoid, but also because I'm curious. I want to see what else they discover. What other species they save, what other wonders they find. Gruzgt looked at each of the young mercenaries around his table. The cantina remained quiet, waiting for him to finish his story. 5 years had passed since that day on the Harmony's quest, but the memory was still fresh in his mind. You still don't believe me, Gruzgt said to Scath. I can see it in your eyes. You think I'm exaggerating? You think I'm old and scared? You think humans can't possibly be that dangerous? Scath shifted uncomfortably. It's just hard to believe that 12 unarmed scientists beat 40 trained mercenaries. I have proof, Gruzgt said. He pulled out a data pad and placed it on the table. Recordings from our helmet cameras. Medical reports from our ship's doctor showing the injuries we sustained. Every single injury was non-lethal, precisely calculated to disable without causing permanent damage. And this. He activated the data pad. Captain Park's face appeared on the screen. The message she had sent began to play. I hope you learned something today, Grizzt. We tried to teach gently. Next time you meet humans, remember, we prefer peace, but we're very good at war. The young mercenaries stared at the recording. Park looked calm, even kind. But there was something in her eyes that made them all uncomfortable. A quiet strength. An absolute certainty. I've shown this recording to dozens of mercenary crews, Grizzt said. Some listened, some didn't. The ones who didn't listen are either dead in prison or sitting in cantinas like this one, telling their own stories about why you should never make humans angry. How many crews attacked humans after you? A listener asked. In the 5 years since my encounter, I know of 17 separate attacks on human vessels, Grizzt said. 15 were civilian ships. 2 were diplomatic transports. Every single attack failed. Not one crew succeeded in their mission. And here's the important part. In all 17 attacks, the humans had chances to kill their attackers. They chose not to. Every single time. He let that sink in. Think about what that means. 17 times, humans were attacked without warning. 17 times they defended themselves successfully. 17 times they had the opportunity and justification to kill in self-defense. 17 times they chose mercy instead. That's not weakness. That's strength beyond what most species can comprehend. What happened to Captain Park's crew? Someone asked. After everything, did they finish their research? They did more than finish it, Grizzt said with something like pride in his voice. 3 months after our encounter, they announced they had developed a cure for the bacterial strain. They distributed it freely to 17 species who would have been vulnerable. They didn't charge anything. They didn't ask for recognition. They just made sure everyone was safe. The Galactic Council gave them commendations, Grizzt continued. Multiple species sent thank you messages. But the humans barely acknowledged any of it. Captain Park said in an interview that they were just doing their job, protecting life, that's all. He smiled that frightening Catharian smile. They're still out there, still doing research, still discovering things, still helping species they've never met, and still being underestimated by fools who think soft bodies mean soft spirits. Scath looked down at the table. So what do we do? How do we know which contracts to avoid? It's simple, Grizzt said. Any contract against humans, refuse it. Any contract against human allies, be careful. Any contract that might bring you into conflict with humans, think 3 times. They're not everywhere, but they're expanding. More human ships every year. More human colonies. More human researchers and diplomats and traders. Are there human mercenaries? A young fighter asked. Some, Grizzt said, but they're different. Human mercenaries tend to take defensive contracts, protecting people, escorting ships, guarding settlements. They rarely take offensive contracts, and the ones who do are usually working against criminals or slavers or those who attack civilian targets. He leaned back in his chair. There are warrior species in the galaxy. The Kreth are stronger than humans. The Velnari are psychic. The Torgans have better armor and weapons. But humans combine traits that make them uniquely formidable. They adapt faster than anyone. They cooperate better than hive species. They learn their opponents with frightening speed. And they stay rational when angry instead of losing control. What about their military? Scath asked. You only fought scientists. I've researched that too, Grizzt said. Human military forces are even more impressive than their civilians. They train constantly. They study every conflict in their history to learn from mistakes. They develop new tactics and strategies continuously. And they have the same philosophy. Prefer peace, but prepare for war. He pointed at the young mercenaries. If you ever face human civilians and lose, you're lucky. You'll survive and learn. If you face human military and they decide you're a real threat, you won't get that chance. They'll study you, understand you, and defeat you with efficiency that makes what happened to me look gentle. Why are you telling us all this? Scath asked quietly. Because I don't want you to die stupid deaths, Grizzt said simply. Because I don't want you to make the mistakes I made. Because the galaxy is better when people understand each other instead of fighting. And because humans deserve respect, not just fear. I spent 30 years building a reputation as a fearsome mercenary, Grizzt continued. One encounter with humans taught me that reputation meant nothing. Real strength isn't about how many people you can kill. It's about how many you can save. How many problems you can solve without violence. How well you can protect what matters. He stood up slowly, his 4 arms stretching. That's the final lesson. Humans taught me what real strength looks like. It looks like Minjai standing alone to protect medicine that would save billions. It looks like Captain Park offering mercy to people who attacked her crew. It looks like 12 scientists defending themselves without becoming killers. The cantina remained silent as Grizzt prepared to leave. Then Scath asked one more question. What happened to that contract you mentioned at the beginning? The one against a human colony transport? Grizzt pulled out his datapad and showed them. A contract offer was displayed on the screen. Good pay. Simple target. A human archaeological expedition studying ruins on an outer rim world. Just 15 humans. Lightly defended. I received this contract offer 2 days ago, Grizzt said. Want to know what I did? He deleted the contract with one claw. Then he composed a message to the employer. The young mercenaries watched as he typed. Find someone else. Find someone who wants to learn why they call me Lucky Grezikit. Lucky because I survived making humans angry once. Smart because I'll never do it again. He sent the message and pocketed his datapad. That's my advice to all of you. Be smart. Be lucky. Stay alive. And never, ever make humans angry. Grizzt walked toward the cantina exit. As he reached the door, he turned back one final time. The most formidable warrior isn't the one who wins every fight. It's the one who knows which fights to avoid. Remember that. Then he was gone, leaving the young mercenaries to contemplate his warning. The cantina slowly returned to its normal noise level, but everyone there would remember the story. They would spread the word. And somewhere out in space, on a research vessel called Harmony's Quest, Captain Park Ji-woo and her crew continued their work, unaware that they had changed the entire mercenary industry forever. The most dangerous humans, after all, are the ones who never wanted to be dangerous at all.